comedy ones like Joe Rogan to like political ones like 1A, Crime Junkie, and things like that. So I did this because I wanted a way to challenge myself. For me, challenging myself is really pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And so, like, podcasting and meeting new people is a little bit different for me. And so, even being like an extremely extroverted person, meeting new people was always kind of a challenge for me. So I was trying to find a way to challenge myself with like public speaking or communication. So that's one of the reasons why I started this. And then learning new things. So one of the things I always say to people, and I think that Adam posted this as well, is that I consider myself a forever student. And so I never stop learning. And the best way for me to learn is through discussions with other people and learning more about their thoughts, ideas, perspectives, and obviously engaging in a conversation. And so this kind of allows me that outlet as well. They're power washing my windows right now, just FYI. And then obviously to have fun. So when I first started this, I was actually talking to Tavi and Adam about this, and they were the two that referred me to Ivy where I film, because my friend Addie and I were like, well, we just want a podcast and we want to start just, you know, something small. And it was really just to have fun. So we started out just really, I'm not taking this super seriously. So what is a social exchange project? So I kind of coin it as like a podcast that provides extraordinary people who have passions, like a platform to exchange their ideas, thoughts, showcase their talents. A lot of our guests, and I'll get to that in a second, are really talented, like musicians or people that really have like this wonderful talent that I don't often see in a podcast format. So for me, the social exchange project allows me to provide my guests, assign my guests like they are like my clients or people I serve. So I really want to provide good content or a platform for them to really come on and talk more. I also, with this picture, as you can see, we have a lot of drinks. We also drink a lot on our podcast when we're filming. And the three on the right are three women entrepreneurs. And this was our episode 4, I think, where it was Hmong Women in Beauty. So they're all like CEOs. They own like nail salon, a hair salon, and then they do beauty, like makeup. So okay, so what makes my podcast unique? So I honestly didn't think about any of this at all until like after I started, but I kind of gave some thought. I'm actually in business classes, so shout out to Laura, who is my instructor in that class, who kind of pushed me to think more about like what makes my podcast unique. And so one of the things that I started out with is not only do I offer a video format, a lot of podcasts nowadays, there's like millions of them. A lot of them are just audio. And for me, I offer video quality, and not only that, but like 4K. So 4K is like the highest quality that you can get for video. So it's obviously like better than HD. With that, it does, you know, take up a lot of memory, and I was telling Laura this, that it takes forever to upload because it's 4K. But for me, what's really important is that I'm offering like high quality visuals for my guests, like, because it's content for them essentially to share with their followers and their fans, you know, if I have like celebrities that come on or the people that follow their pages. So that was something that was super important to me. I also have like professional editing. So I hire a videographer or a videography company to film as well as edit all of my episodes. And so like right now with everything happening, I'm obviously using Zoom, but like I have always wanted everything to be seamless. So when you are watching or experiencing my podcast, or especially the video aspect of things, that is edited professionally. And so I get a really good deal because the videographer is my brother. And so his company, really, I just get like a really good deal with it. And so I don't know, I use it to the fullest extent that I can. And then preparation. And so what that means is I know a lot of podcasts out there do some preparation, but also a lot of them just kind of like come in and they just start recording with not really like an agenda in mind. For me, I do a lot of prep work. So a lot of my behind the scenes work is actually, I literally build it into my week. So it's like about 10 hours I spend just researching guests, making sure that I am preparing questions beforehand, like thoughtful questions, more deeper surface questions. So I do a lot of behind the scenes work there as well. Another process that I do for preparation is that I always allow the guests to have like a pre-interview. I do prefer a pre-interview, and that's just so that I can kind of pick their brains a little bit and see like what direction they want their episode to go. So do they want to really talk about like X, Y, and Z, or are those subjects that they're not like comfortable discussing? And then I kind of just ask like what is it that they really see as like their vision for the episode as well, so that we have kind of those things in mind. And then I always send out like what I say prompt questions, so pre-interview questions as well, so that they, after our pre-interview, can really start to think about what they want to share. And then when I say I strive for good content, for me, I not only try to ask like mindful questions, but I think again that like my guests are, you know, my clients. And so the opportunity for them to showcase another side to them that is unique to like their normal following or their fans or whomever it is that follows them, that we can really showcase a different side. So not only like their talents if they're like musicians, but really just like fun things. Like I've had a couple of people who's here today actually on my podcast. I had Beth and Tabitha, and we'll like play games or we'll do like fun segments, just again to kind of show a different side to them. So that to me is really important. Okay, so the kind of guests that I book, I honestly book like everyone who, like I always do, again, that research beforehand. Like I personally reach out to them and like I want them on my podcast. So the guests that I really book are all of the people that I have there. So musicians, comedians, entrepreneurs. I've had, so the upper left picture is of Yia Vang, who's a celebrity chef. He just got recently featured on the cover of Bon Appetit magazine. And so I don't know why he came on my podcast. I'm not that cool, but he came on regardless. So I have chefs that come on, motivational speakers. I've had a university professor that has come on, and so on and so forth. And then one of the things that I've been working a lot more towards is doing like guest panels on special topics. And so, like I mentioned earlier, the 3 women who are Hmong entrepreneurs in the beauty. Sorry, that's them power washing again. We're gonna have like the cleanest windows. But so one of the things that I want to work a lot more towards is not just having like a single guest. I want to have like a bunch of different diverse individuals as part of the panel. So the special topics that I'll have, the last one that I filmed that was a guest panel was actually featured my husband, who hiked the entire Appalachian Trail. And so I had him and one of his I guess like hiking partners, and then 2 other individuals that I met when I went to go visit him. And it was cool because we did it through Zoom so that they were able to like come in and join in on that conversation. But I'm doing a lot more on special topics. And then the next 2, these are not out yet, so you guys have like VIP access to this, but I'm doing an LGBTQ and dating in the modern world. So that's going to be filmed in about 2 weeks. And then I also booked a clinical psychologist. It's part of, so she works at, it's called Project Chantu. So Chantu in Hmong means like sunshine, and they do a lot of like mental health awareness and suicide prevention in the Hmong community, specifically aimed towards like youth, because mental health in the Hmong community isn't really something that has been a focus. So another thing that I really want to put out there too, and I guess this kind of goes back to what makes me unique, is I'm Hmong, obviously. And so a lot of the episodes that I feature are really extraordinary people who are making amazing waves in our community that I want to really provide that platform. And so this clinical psychologist, for instance, she is a huge like proponent on like talking about mental health in our community, which is kind of like a taboo topic. Like a lot of the, especially our elderly or more older generations, they don't talk about mental health, and a lot of them don't even know it exists. So those are special topics for me that I'm super excited to start focusing a lot more on. So those are the types of guests that I focus on. So I just thought, for a lot of you who do not know what my content consists of, I hired my brother to do like a really quick 45-second compilation video. Hopefully I did this okay. Oh, and Adam, I totally forgot to do the share the audio thing. How do I fix that?
That's all right. If you just hit your share screen button one more time and then just select that.
Okay. For somebody who podcasts a lot, I have no idea how to use technology. So just so you guys know. Okay, let me try this again. Okay. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Social Exchange Project. This is a podcast that is aimed around providing a platform for amazing individuals.
Camera guy, I got you right here.
Watch anyway.
The ones that you watch on the
Who's like, yeah.
I look to them as inspiration.
The fluidity of going between both genders.
I'm working on it. It's called A Stranger.
That day changed the way I thought about food.
We're always like, hi.
In our class, of course, we ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And then the older generation started recognizing this isn't so bad. This isn't so bad.
I think it's really important to know what success is for you.
Doesn't first go to pain in order for us to learn something.
You have to know your audience and understand that it's not about you, it's about them. You're trying to help them.
So that is just kind of a quick compilation of the types of content and guests that I have on my show. So, okay, so the outcomes that and this is something that I kind of go over with the guests as well. I try not to do too much of this because I want them to like really feel like at ease. But 3 major outcomes or goals for every episode. And of course, we're gonna have more of one component versus the other. But I always look at these 3 things. So entertainment. So are these people or what we're talking about like enjoyable to watch or listen to? Can I relate to the guest or even myself and my co-host on some sort of level? So we try really hard to like be authentic and just really be in the moment, even with all the like preparedness that happens behind the scenes. Educational. So did I learn something from this? It wasn't just like us, talking about our day. It was really something like concepts and key strategies, especially with the life coaching one that I had. I wanted a lot of that to be strategies. So did I learn anything from this? Did it teach me something valuable? And then impactful. So one of the things is, so when I first started this podcast, I started with my friend Addie. And so it was called the Shank and Addie Show. So it was like the Shank X Addie Show. And then I was changing it because she wanted to step down. It just took like too much out of her week, which is completely understandable. But I was thinking about a name and I was like, well, I want there to be like all these different aspects of like the show that should be portrayed in the name. And so I came up with the social exchange because I want it to be like a social exchange. Obviously, it's like a play on words. I want there to be some sort of like social change as well. So the impact for me is also important. So can I implement what I just watched or what I just listened to into my life, like as a viewer or as a listener? Did it provoke any kind of emotion or elicit emotion? Did it challenge any of my thoughts or values or belief systems? And then is there some sort of call to action? And so kind of going back to some of the ones that I want to produce moving forward, I focused around the impact as well. However, I do have problems that I have been realizing with just podcasting in general. Again, I started this out as really just like a fun hobby. I am obviously taking it a lot more seriously, but I don't, and I've been really clear about this, is that I don't want to like make money really off of this. I don't want it to be like a source of like revenue per se. I just really want this to be something that is going to be self-sustaining. And so part of that, and I'll actually go to financials first. So my goal is just to sustain my podcast. There are fees associated with like renting out the studio, obviously, and then, just hiring for the editing and things like that. I want to still keep the quality, but I want to be able to find a way where I can still make a little bit of money just to put it back into the podcast. And so I don't want to really negotiate on the quality that I have right now and like the free content that I'm providing to anyone who wants to have access to it. So, and again, it is a passion project, but I want there to be some sort of income coming in to kind of negate the expenses that I'm putting into it. The other thing that I'm learning a lot more about, and again, I started this just as a hobby, but I learned really quickly that there are certain thresholds on the social media platforms that I'm using in order for me to make any kind of money or to have monetization take place. There are thresholds for like views, thresholds for like subscribers on YouTube, obviously, followers, or just likes, I guess, on Facebook, as well as like how many times something is listened to, like on Spotify, for instance. And so those types of thresholds I'm really kind of learning a lot more about, but I think I need a little bit more help in that aspect, because it's more of like an art and a little bit like a game. And so like just providing good quality content is a good start, but it's not enough. So I need to learn more about some of the dollars and cents, I guess, that goes into that. And then marketing. So when I talk about marketing, again, I quickly changed my name. I'm really happy with my name choice, but I don't know for sure if it has like a clear marketing strategy. Like when somebody looks at my logo, or just takes a quick peek at my Facebook page, like, is my marketing clear? Like, there are so many podcasts out there that I want to stand out, even though I know I have uniqueness to my podcast. I want to be able to stand out like quickly. And so I think I need more of like a firm marketing plan to kind of showcase like that uniqueness. So something like condensed, but yet summarized, and something that's really going to be like awesome, that, if somebody's just going to, see a quick video of mine, or come on my Facebook, or, look at one of my YouTube videos, that it like piques their interest right away. And so I think I need a little bit more help in the marketing aspect of things. And then I put learning, because I'm still learning through a lot of this as well. And so one of my goals is to continue to grow in this like arena. So like podcasting arena, like just like content creating arena, like YouTubing. Most of my views right now is actually really successful through Facebook, because I'm just super comfortable with how to use Facebook. I think that there's a skill set in that looks differently in the YouTube world. So I want to continue to learn, and I want to continue to connect with people in those different platforms and kind of understand what that game is like. So expanding my knowledge has been a little bit difficult. Like, I'm a part of a bunch of groups on Facebook that are fellow podcasters. Like, I have one that's just like Hmong podcasters, and then I have one that works specifically with Anchor, and then I have others that just have similar guests as I do, or similar formats as I do, and it's still kind of difficult to learn. I did reach out to somebody who helped me with some of the brand marketing, because that's kind of what he does for podcasts and things like that, and so he was actually one of the inspirations for my name as well. So yeah, a lot I still need to learn, and I don't know if you guys know who Scott Morfitt is, but he's like awesome. He just relocated, but he was somebody that I reached out to. He does classes, and he used to have interns and stuff that he would help kind of mentor for podcasting. And when I reached out to him, he didn't really have a lot of that time. Obviously, he was moving. But even when I was starting out, he gave me some really good advice. And it was like, just to do it and just to learn as you go, and really stay disciplined if it's something that you want to like pursue and take seriously. And so I always kind of took that with every like step or every phase of this passion project. And so that has helped me out a lot. But I mean, I don't really have anybody else in the community that I know that really can offer that kind of mentorship. And so I still need some assistance in that aspect of things. But with that, that's essentially my podcast. And so I just, if you guys have questions or comments about my podcast and my hobby, feel free to ask me.
Excellent. So feel free to open up that participants tab and use the raise your hand feature. I see that we've already got a couple hands raised. Otherwise, if you don't want to ask on camera, you can feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will ask them out of there. So Becca.
Hey, that was really awesome. I really love your business so far. I have a question. Are all your guests local to the Chippewa Valley, or are they like nationwide, or how do you recruit who you want?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I actually didn't mention that, but so my podcast is Midwest based. And so like my last guest, he lives in Hollywood because he's in the new movie Mulan. But for me, I wanted it to be somebody that understood like the Midwest culture. So he's originally from like like Minneapolis, Minnesota, or St. Paul, Minnesota. So from the cities. And so I always look for those individuals first. So as of right now, that's all that I really want to focus on, are guests that are local to our community. But eventually, like if my podcast continues to grow and I want to like expand my panel or something like that, then I might look at like across country or even like, other places. But for right now, yeah, it's just Midwest based.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Specifically to like Eau Claire, Chippewa Valley, but I do look at like the cities a lot for my guests as well, because they have either, so I had a film director who we helped bring his movie to Eau Claire actually after he appeared on my podcast. Excuse me. So he was originally from Eau Claire. So he grew up in Eau Claire, but he lives in St. Paul right now. And so that was one of the things that I always look at is like, do they have any familiarity to the Eau Claire area or know a lot about our culture here? And so that was, so that is something that is really important to me too, is to kind of stay local and in the arena that I'm familiar with. So.
Okay.
Excellent. Tabitha.
Oh, hey, Shay.
Oh, hey, how's it going, Tabby?
Oh, good. How are you? It was really good. I loved your presentation, and seeing you grow from when you first started this with Addie has been amazing to see. Like, you should be really proud of yourself. Of what you've been able to do. Like, legit, this, like, I love your show, and I'm really honored that you asked me to be on it twice already.
Tabby was my so we did improv together, or I attempted it, I should say. It was really cringeworthy. But I did that with Tabby, and Tabby appeared on my episode 2, and then she came back on as a guest host for Beth, actually, who's also here today. So
she was not as bad as all of you, as she thinks she was. She was actually pretty good. Do not let her fool you. But I wanted to suggest that because I know that you talked about wanting to like not charge people for things and like all that stuff, and I completely understand that. I would suggest something that we've looked into, like as another creative field, would be a Patreon. You don't have to restrict access to like, oh, only my Patreon people can see this, but some things that I've noticed that people really like with podcasts is if you contribute like $5 a month to my Patreon, you could have early access to an episode. So that could be something to look into, just to like maybe get some finances to help pay for like the rentals and stuff.
Yeah, and that's a good idea. I signed up for Patreon. And I was talking to Laura actually about this too when we were going over my business plan for the podcast. Is I just don't know how to use any of it. Like, to be honest, I just don't. But I did sign up for that, and that was one of the areas that I was like, okay, that would be a good source of revenue too. So like I thought about that. I'm thinking about like sponsors, endorsements, things like that. But I really, really am like, I don't know if I should be like picky, because I want to still like upkeep with like the authenticity of what I'm trying to provide. But yeah, I definitely have looked at that. I haven't really done much with it though. But yeah, that's something I need to revisit for sure.
Excellent.
Cool.
There's been a little bit of talk in the chat as well, potentially using radio ads to advertise. They're really affordable right now. Eric Bowd has actually said that he's got a really good connection at iHeartRadio. If you'd want to connect with him, I can pass your info along to each other.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then Sarah Gordy also said, considering you've got a YouTube channel, YouTube advertising could be your best bet, more affordable than traditional media advertising as well.
Okay.
And I know that Hooked just did a webinar on online advertising, and it was really interesting that most YouTube ads are actually viewed on TVs. So people that have smart TVs or streaming devices are actually seeing these ads on their televisions. So it's a really cheap way to get your advertisement on a television screen as opposed to just a computer screen.
That's awesome.
Beth.
Hi, Shang.
Hello.
Great presentation. You did an awesome job. And I'll tell, she mentioned that I was a guest twice now on her podcast, and she really does an amazing job of making you feel comfortable, asking really, really good questions. I feel like we had a great conversation both times. So she does a really, really good job. So well done, Shang. Question for you. When you talked about the guests that you have on, I mean, at first you said everybody, but then you narrowed it down a little bit, that it's not just everybody. But it does still feel fairly broad. And when I talk to entrepreneurs about who their market is, and this is kind of thinking about who your guest market is, if you have a really broad market, it's harder to kind of the energy that you put out in trying to gather in those guests, or even to reach the market that you're speaking to, gets a little diluted. So I wonder if there'd be any value to maybe focusing in a little bit more, so then you can be more targeted with not only who you bring in, but then the market that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I did think about that as well. And again, I think this is like selfish of me, because I think for me, even though I do want to take this, I mean, I do take it very seriously, obviously, as like a business, for me, I selfishly want to learn. And so if I kind of look at like just one, maybe that's something that I need a lot more help with, is like understanding what that then would look like, and really understanding like, so if we only look at these types of individuals as guests, what does that look like for me as like an interviewer, or me as like the owner, I guess, or producer, director. So yeah, I thought about that too, but I think I need a lot more assistance again in that area too, because it's a selfish thing. Like I just want to learn from people, because I get people on like a music producer that I have no idea what he's talking about half the time. And I did put in there, like, can you please put it in layman's terms? Because it's to teach me something as well, but then also to really show like his friends and family, the people that have followed him or worked with him, to appreciate what he does a lot, And so, yeah, I definitely do think I need more help with that. And again, that mentorship is something I would really, I think I need. So thank you.
So just one quick little follow up to that. It's kind of going back to, what is your intention? So if your intention is to a learning opportunity for you, and an opportunity for people to get on your show and get more exposure, or if that's your intention, then the way you're functioning is in line with that intention. But if your intention is to really, really grow it, then you may have to shift what your business model looks like.
Yeah.
And either's fine. Either's fine. It's just being clear with your intention.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I guess I don't know what my intention is truly. Like, it's like one part of me wants to really just stay like with like the learning experience, because I'm like a really curious forever student, I was saying. And I really like that aspect. But then also then the other part is like, well, if I want to make, that's like where the conflict is coming in, is like, if I want to make money or be able to like have sponsors, like people who want to like go and spend money on advertisement or anything through my podcast, well, what their brand is needs to kind of match what my brand is too. And so, yeah, that's definitely something I need to continue to figure out. So.
It'll evolve. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. There's a little bit of talk in the chat, kind of in that same vein as Beth, focusing in on a specific market. And then Hannah also said, do you mean big, like capital BIG, because that matters how you market. iHeart's a good local connection, and she's got to connect there if you want to that. And then Facebook ads are another great way to reach people right now, because so many have pulled their ads for financial and limited service abilities currently. So you kind of stand out in that market. I've got Liz, then Hal, then Diane.
Great. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, thanks for your presentation and great screen sharing. You did good. That's wonderful. I just had a question for you, and maybe Adam could chime in too. Have you ever worked with or talked to Ivy Creative next to Collab? I don't know if they would have any resources to help you out, but they seem in this vein.
So I film out Ivy, and I do work with Alec a lot there. Okay. He's been really great as well, Alec and Kyle. And so I have learned a ton from them for sure. So I didn't even give them a shout out. But yeah, I film all of my episodes out of Ivy. So that's actually part of my expenses. I rent space out of there as like a member. So So yeah, I mean, I know too through there, I've learned a lot through the other Kyle as well, because he focuses on podcasting as well, like helping people with podcasting and stuff. And so yeah, I have reached out to Alec about some of those aspects of things too, and I've been learning too. Ivy has been like the best, most like amazing partner that I've ever had, for real. Like I couldn't have done any of this without Ivy, but I couldn't have honestly done this. I'm gonna put collab in there as well without Adam and Tabby, because they were the ones who really referred me to Ivy. And so like without like even just having that step, like I wouldn't have been able to even be where I'm at right now. So yeah, Ivy's been awesome. Yeah.
It just seems like they have a lot of knowledge of the extent that these things can be taken, marketing and just the reach. And so, yeah, I was just curious if you're working with them, because it seems like a good fit, but it sounds like you are. Great.
Awesome. Hal.
Hey, Shane. Hal, we haven't met, but I was really kind of interested in your podcast. I really like you're talking about having a voice for the Hmong people or Hmong community here in Eau Claire. And I have a lot of Hmong friends and was excited when Mai got elected. But
she was actually going to come on my podcast, but she had to focus on her campaign.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. But we have a lot of Hmong friends, but I was wondering what do you do to prepare? Do you just kind of go dry and just start talking? Do you do a little prep for your podcast? Was there a little thing you run through?
Yeah, so I from like the very beginning, I thought a lot about like how am I going to prepare, because I only essentially have like 1 hour to film with them and I want to maximize that time. So what I normally do is I kind of like stalk them out already. Like I do a little research about what they do through just their social media platforms. Or if I just kind of know who they are and what they provide, then I'll look deeper into like their websites or whatever it is that they have. And then I'll reach out to them, because then there are people that I'm like, oh, I'm really interested in them. I'll reach out to them, kind of just share a little bit about my podcast, kind of my goal at that point. And then I'll schedule a pre-interview. So that pre-interview is really just to kind of go over, it's like orientation-ish, but it's like, hey, like this, we're going to be filming out Ivy. These are kind of things that I'm looking for, like expectations, but then also the topics or the agenda that I have is this, but you give me what you think is going to be best for your episode. You know, like you tell me what you want to share or what you want to really have out there for your, because it's essentially your content. So I'll do that in a pre-interview form. And then from that pre-interview, I already go in with kind of like prompt questions or questions for them to kind of consider. But from that pre-interview, I then conjure up like a final like prompt or pre-interview like list of questions, and they're typically like 10 to 15. And then sometimes I'll do like a little surprise game and stuff so that it's kind of like improv, I guess. But that's what I'll do, is then I'll send them the questions, I'll give them reminders before we film, and that way then it kind of gives them like that, it puts them in that mindset of like, this is what she's going to expect from me. And so I want to make sure that I'm also prepared, so that way it maximizes the time that we have together. So, but open to other suggestions. Like if you guys have other ideas of how else I could prepare. I watch a ton of YouTube videos. Like this last guest that I had, he has, some people have a ton of content out there and then some don't. So I try not to do too much, because then I feel like I already know everything about that person too. But I always spend a lot of my time that week prior to the official like filming session, like looking at what they have out there. So like this last guest I had, he's an actor, and he's been in a lot of different like small roles in TV shows, but he was in Gran Torino. So I rewatched Gran Torino just so I had like something to go off of, you know, like if he was to bring something up that like, yep, I have a working knowledge of Gran Torino, I just watched it. Or like past interviews that he's done too, so that I'm not asking the same questions. So like if it's like past interviews that I've seen him do, for instance, this last guest that I had, he's already asked a lot of the like surfacey questions, like tell us about how you know, the time that you worked with Clint Eastwood. That I didn't ask that, because that's already something that is available out there. So that's kind of the research that I try to do beforehand, so that our session looks a little bit differently and it's more mindful. And I also aim to ask questions like, give me your thoughts on this, you know, or give me or provide me with a walkthrough on this experience, or something like that, where a lot of people may not have those questions like prepared for them. But I give that to them beforehand so that they know that I'm going to be asking for that as well. So
awesome.
hopefully that answers your question.
We've got some good chat going on. I'll share that in a moment. Then Diane. There we go.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good morning, Sheng. My name is Diane Wolf, and I did not know anything about you when I sat down this morning. And I would say with your smart, engaging, articulate personality, that is what kept me listening. So on the flip side of find your niche, and maybe you're targeting Hmong, I would say your personality is what kept me engaged. And just as an example, I'm a fan of Andy Cohen's Watch What Happens Live. And like last night he had Marie Osmond and 50 Cent. So two totally opposite people, but he's interested. So everything you said about your personality, I saw that correlation, and that's why I tune into Andy Cohen, because I never know who I'm going to hear from. I'm going to learn something. Two totally different spectrums of people. And anyway, so I would capitalize on your personality because you have that. And then on the business side, if you need some marketing or finance help, you could consider doing a trade with someone if I have a marketing business, social media business, I can be on your show. I could do a segment, but then we'll trade and then I'll do some work for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Diane. I think that's a really good segue into kind of what has been said in the chat. So Laura said the target guests could belong to a broader theme that just links your guests together without being too niche. For example, creatives instead of just musicians, or social change advocates instead of just speakers. Your niche can be communicated in the branding/messaging without making significant changes to the guests you already bring on. And then Jay Kirshen said, or curiosity, as you mentioned. You're curious, you're learning about these other people and their activities/talents. So maybe the intention/focus could be sharing content with other curious Midwesterners. And Liz added to that, there are a lot of forever students, as you consider yourself, out there. So maybe marketing to them will really enhance your audience base. Elaine.
Hey, Sheng, great job. I love your podcast and listening to you talk. You mentioned that you weren't cool, and I would like to tell you that you are cool. And you do have this awesome confidence.
That's
and
the validation I needed today, man.
You're cool. Trust me. I'm not, but you definitely are. And I think like podcast wise and what I listen to, that is kind of a factor where I'm like, oh yeah, I think they're cool. And I think you totally have that, kind of like how Diane was saying. You're articulate, you're genuine. I want to hear from you. You're curious, you want to learn. I want to know what you want to learn. So I think that has a lot to do with that. So don't discredit yourself and kind of use that if you can. And then yeah, marketing wise, that video you played was awesome. That little reel. If you can use that in any of your like digital advertising, I think that would be huge, because I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I want to go back and listen to that one or that one. I love the little snips. Or maybe it's just you going live and being like, I'm Sheng, here's what I'm doing, and things like that. But you are cool, and I think that'll take you far. So just keep it up. Yeah.
And actually this little video here, I had my brother do it specifically for 1 Million Cups when I was asked by Adam last week, Thursday, I think, when we confirmed everything. I had him work on it over the weekend, and so I was waiting until after this so that I can actually post it. So yeah.
It's great. It's very well done, and yeah, yep, you're doing great.
0 credit to me. That was all my brother. I don't do anything with that. I took on way too much last week, and I was crying a little bit about it, and so I had him handle it all. So that's all 100% him.
Awesome. Sarah in the chat also agrees with Diane. She's intrigued about the variety of people and topics that you're interested in, and think that you can really build a following on that premise. Anne has a question here.
Hi, Sheng. Great job today. I'm excited to check out your podcast. I haven't listened before, but I will be looking for it now. I'm really just seconding what people in the chat have been saying. As I think through the podcasts that I do follow today, some of them have a wide variety of topics. And as I think about what is that thread that kind of holds it together. Some of them it's some sort of a broader topic, and sometimes it's their process. Like I know when I listen to this podcast, he is always going to ask this one question, or I know it's going to be about this long, and this is kind of how it will go, and the things he will pull out from the speaker. And again, with your personality, you probably are already doing some things like that. So it might seem disjointed when you talk about all the different sorts of people that you interview, but it's probably a lot more connected and has maybe a format process than you even realize. So yeah, just wanted to encourage you and to agree with everyone in the chat. Thanks.
And I think like I would like to learn more about what that thread may be, aside from it selfishly being about me wanting to learn through people and wanting to give them good content. But yeah, I think that is still something I need to figure out, is what is that thread? Because I do agree that like I've pitched this idea to a lot of my friends too, and they said the same thing. Like they're like, well, who do you book then? Like there's so many people on your podcast. And so I kind of thought of it as like, well, if you don't really want to watch this podcast about this person, you know, then you might be more interested in this. So, but yeah, I definitely need to figure out what that thread is. And so yeah, still a work in progress for sure.
Shang, there were a couple good suggestions of similar things in the chat. So Smarter Every Day, which is a YouTube channel, and Learning Local was something that Laura Riley brought up. So I can send you the chat after this as well.
Sure.
Diane, I saw that you had your hand up there.
I kind of took it back down because other people had reiterated. So I'm just, again, like your little video you showed us that your brother did. I would have liked to seen more of you in it. I mean, I think it was great, but again, if you can capitalize on your personality, then that's your niche. I mean, I think all those speakers were probably great and had great sound bites, but I think your gold is you and your personality. And when you embrace that, it's going to be great.
Awesome.
Awesome. That's really going to make my ego grow a lot, just to let you know. Like,
well, maybe it should. You're really good.
Thank you.
And Shang, just out of curiosity, what was your brother's business, and do you have a link for that we could share?
Yeah, yep. So it's Film Traverse Productions. I always tag as much as I can his Facebook. He works like 3 different jobs, and they're all like around photography, videography. And so this is kind of one of his passion projects as well. It's like he's really just helping me with this. But I always take him as Film Traverse Productions, and then I always take Ivy, because Ivy obviously is like a huge partner to me. So I always try to give credit where it's all due. But yeah, I can definitely send that over. But if you visit my website, or my Facebook page, I should say, I always am taking Ivy and Film Traverse, so you guys can check out their work there too.
Excellent. I will try to find that real quick and post it in the chat for anybody that is curious. All right, so it looks like we don't have any other questions outstanding. So we always like to end with the question, what can we as a community do for you?
I think just...
Oh, you could like connect.
I think just like being like, obviously supporting it, like watching it, you know, sharing it, things like that. But really what I want to really have happen is like to grow. And so I want to have like honest feedback. I want to have like, you know, like even if it's like a criticism, a constructive criticism of some kind. And like this has been incredibly helpful, because I don't really get a lot of this. I normally just get people like, oh, that's so cool, like what a cool episode, and that is wonderful, but I'd like to know like, how can I do better? Like, how can I do better next time? How can I continue to provide really good free content, but still be able to focus on the business side of things? And again, I had to take business class for this, just because I wanted to take it super seriously in that regard, and that's what I'm lacking. So as a community, I think like even just like little you know, like a link, you know, if you want to share it with me, or just like a piece of advice or something, like, again, this has been incredibly helpful. So as a community, I think that is my biggest goal, is just to learn how to do better.
Awesome. And what would be the best way to kind of give you that feedback? Would it be commenting on your Facebook videos, commenting on your YouTube videos? Do you check those sorts of things?
Yeah, all the time. I try not to be super obsessive about the analytics because there's always, like I used to when I first started, like people, it would tell me on Facebook and YouTube, like the demographic, who's watching, how long they're watching for, how many views. I try not to be super obsessed with those types of things, but like a comment if you like the content, a share would be awesome. But like you can always message me too on Facebook, email me, text, you know, any way that you'd like to provide that feedback would be, I'm open. So
awesome.
I'm a
Sounds
pretty
great.
open book.
So I dropped the link for Film Traverse Productions as well as Ivy Media there in the chat. So if you are interested in either of those, feel free to grab those out of there. Sheng, one last thing from Hannah. Would you want suggestions for guests at all?
Would I want suggestions? Absolutely. Yeah. So again, like I want to know that like the guests that's coming on, and maybe I'm just too picky, but like I want to know that the guests that are coming on are people that I can really relate to, and that is genuine in their intent when they come on. So it's not like just you know, just like to sell something. I want them to really like want to genuinely be present and like answer questions and be mindful about what we're doing together. You know, like when I think of the social exchange, it is a social exchange. I kind of want those types of guests. But yes, I'm open to like any suggestions, like anything anyone wants to see. I definitely will check it out for sure.
Awesome. And Beth, just as one last reminder that's been agreed upon, be picky. It's your show. So you are totally within your right to make those decisions. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. And thank you again, Sheng, for your awesome presentation today.
Thank you, guys.